Hello and welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic. Now, we got a tweet the other day from WeCop1, who's one of the most regular commenters on the channel and seems like quite an expert to me. And he says, sandwich Sudoku is the big trend now, and I didn't want to stay out of that any longer. I would agree with that. This one has 8 givens plus all the outside hints, so it shouldn't be that hard, right? But then there's a mischievous emoji. So let's see. I suspect this is going to prove quite hard, but I'm going to give it a go. So, sandwich Sudoku, quick recap of the rules, as well as the normal Sudoku rules. There are clues outside the grid. For each row and column, the clues give, for that row or column, the sum of the digits between the 1 and 9, the 1 and the 9 in that row and column. So where it's a 0 here, that must mean the 1 and 9 must appear next to each other because there's no digits between them. Right, that's the rules. Now let's take a moment to admire the symmetry of the clues outside the grid here. Loads of 17s, more than half of the crosses, more than half of the downs, and in fact there's a beautiful symmetry of 17, 17, 17, 17, 20, 22, 27, 17, 0, across the top and down the side exactly the same numbers. So that's a pretty clever compilation straight away. But let's have a go at solving it. So we've been given a 1 and a 9, which seems reasonably generous. So the best way often to go here is to mark off the squares that cannot contain a 1 or a 9. So in this column we've got 17 with a 1 in it. 17 has to be at least 3 cells, so it's not much point marking the one with the 3 in it already, but all of those cells cannot possibly contain a 1 or a 9. And going across from that one, we have a 20. That's got to be, again, at least 3 cells. And in the case of 20, it could be as many as 5, but the last cell in that row can't be a 9. Now let's use the same technique with the 9 down here. 17 has to be at least 3 cells. So we know the 1 will be on one of the edges there, and the 20 again has to be at least 3 cells, and we can't reach to the end. So got that as a kind of given start. Now, what else can we deduce? Now, there are these two 27s, and anything over 26 is a useful number because it has to have 5 cells between the 1 and the 9. So those 5 cells will always have to include the central 3. So we know that those 3 must not contain 1 or 9. Same because of the symmetry for those ones. And now that's quite interesting because we've got these zeros in the end rows and end columns. So one of these 2 cells must have a 9 and the 1 must be right next to it. So that means the ones at the end can't contain the 1 and 9. Same down here. So we've come down to this pattern already. Lovely symmetry still, obviously, I suppose. What else can we find out? Now, 17 is not a very useful number in the sense that it could be made up of 3 digits or 4 digits. And mind you, in, say, column 2 here, with this 17, the numbers between 1 and 9 have to be either 3 or 4 digits. And whichever way that would work, the middle one must be one of those 3 or 4, because even if you went to the extremes and had a 1 or 9 here and a 1 or 9 here, that would be included, or a 1 or 9 here. Actually, that's clearly not a 1 or 9, but this cell cannot be a 1 or 9, and we can again apply exactly the same symmetry to this row. Same thought process entirely. Anything else we can get going on? I have a feeling, I mean, we've been able to shade a lot of the grid straight away. I have a feeling, given the author's comment that it's not going to be very hard to, it's not going to be very simple to make the first kind of insertion of numbers, but let's see what we can deduce at this point. So one of these two must be a 1 or a 9, and by the same process of symmetry, one of these two must be a 1 or a 9. And that means that the corner cells in this box can't be 1s or 9s. Might help or not. Those two, no, that's not so useful. Ah, and look, sorry, I hadn't even realized that when we did that stuff with zeros here, for row 8 and column 8, that only left one more white cell where the 1 has to go. So we can put in a 1 there and a 9 there. And now we can use the 17 clue to get rid of the two nearest cells to those. Wonder what sort of symmetry the 1s and 9s will maintain, or will that be broken up at some point? Don't know yet. So that's a start with some numbers now. 9, 1, that's possible. That could be a 1, but it couldn't be a 9. So 9 must be one of those. Now, if this was a 1 or 9, then now 27's good because it needs 5 cells in between. And now that we've ruled out the end cell, less place is impossible. So that is not a 1 or a 9. And now we know that these noughts on the outside are filled by numbers here. So, ooh, what happened there? Sorry. Still in the color control, but let's go back to the numbers. That must be this pattern here, and there we go. So that's useful. Let's carry on shading in the grid for what we know. Now 27 could be an 8 at the end, or two numbers making 8. The same up here. Yeah, so we don't know whether it's this cell or this cell. And the same here. Right, now this one is no longer possible because of the 22s in its row or column. 22 is quite a useful number because the ones outside it, as Simon calls them, the outies, must add up to 13. So that's got to be at least 2 cells, so we can put more greens in there. Now this 17, it needs a 1 or a 9 somewhere to the right of this first box, so that's got to be here. So we can put in more numbers. I think the same is certainly applying down here as well. We don't know where the 1 goes, or do we? If there was a 1 up here, then the outies in the top row would have to add to 18, and there would only be 2 of them, so that's not possible. So we can put in the other 1s and 9s there. Now let's go back to the colors, and always at least 3 cells for a 17. Let's get rid of these 1s. Those are impossible. So this must be a 1. This must be a 9. The beautiful symmetry keeps on going. I'm suspecting it lasts to the end now. In fact, the last place we can put a 1 in the central box is clearly here, and the last 9 is there. And I think we've just got one more 1 and one more 9 to put in, and they're all done. So that part is complete. Very nice, very amusingly symmetrical, I think. So, I don't know, is it worth doing anything more with the colors, or shall I just leave them? I'll just leave them. Right, so let's look at the numbers now. So up here we've got 17 made up of 2 and 2 other numbers. Well, they have to surely be 8 and 7 to get that total to 17. Same here, 17 of course with a 2 in the middle. That much symmetry has been maintained in the given numbers. So we have a 5 and a 3 on the outside there, and up here it's a 5 and a 6 slightly differently. So that's useful. Now 20 down here, the only way of making 20 with 3 digits is 5, 7 and 8. So let's stick those in those cells. Where else can we do something? 17 using a 3 and 2 others. That must be 6 and 8. Here it's a bit harder. It's 17 using a 6. So it's either 7 and 4 or 8 and 3. And I don't think I can immediately tell which it is. Where else? Now 17 here, but we don't have so many constraints on the cells, so on the digits. 17 on the outside, no, that's a bit hard to use. It's a shame we can't use that 17 there, but maybe we can do something with the numbers we've already put in. So 5, 7, 8 in the central box must be in those 3. These 22s have got 2 numbers on the outside. So in both cases actually they start with a 7 or 8. So the other digit must be a 6 or a 5 to make up 13 for the outer numbers. The numbers outside 1 and 9, and that's interesting in column 1 where we've now got 5 and 6, 2 doubles, so they act as a pair. 5, 6, 9 and 1. This can't be 7 or 8 either, so it must be 2, 3 or 4. No, it can't be 2, obviously, sorry, there's a 2 right next to it. 5, 7, 8. But this could be any of 3, 4 or 6, and this could be 3, 4, 6 or 5, I suppose, at the moment. Is that 3, 4 pairing any help? Not immediately. I mean, we're not far away from having this cracked in a way, but on the other hand, we do need one big step to get further forward. So let's use these 2 that we've come up with here. At the maximum, that's 8 and 6. That could go with a 3. At the minimum, it's 7 and 3. That would go with another 7. That's not possible because one of them would already be a 7. So it could be 7 and 4 with a 6. So that's 3, 4, can't be 5 because 5 is taken up in one of these 3. So 3, 4 or 6 there. And does that help us up here? 17 again, 8 and 6 means 1 for the other cell. No, it means 3 for the other cell. Again, that's the minimum. 7 and 3 would lead to a 7. That's not possible. So again, 3, 4, 5 and 6 for there. No, that's not quite as helpful as I was hoping. Now, how about this 17 in these 3 cells here? Maximum is 6 and 5 is 11. That would need another 6. That's not possible. 6 and 4. So 7 is the minimum number here. This has to be 7 or 8. If it was an 8, they would have to add up to 9, which is very possible. If it was a 7, they'd have to add up to 10, which would make them a 6 and a 4. That would give us a 5 and a 3 out here. That would give us a 6 here. No, that doesn't prove anything, I don't think. This cell now for these 3, not probably going to be that helpful. 4, 2, no, 3, it could be as little as 3, but it could also be as much as 6. So again, 3, 4, 5 or 6 and not 5, because these 3 must have a 5 in. But this has to be 3, 4, 6 for its column anyway, just as this one does. Now maybe we haven't used this 6, 8 pair enough. Or maybe we can make some progress on this 6, 9. We know that this is going to be made up of either 3, 8 or 7, 4. but I can't see a way to resolve it. Okay, let's try these ones in row 1. 17 from these 3. We've got maximum they could add up to first is 11, but 6 would be a duplicate. So 10 and a 7. So this has to either be 7 or 8. Can we do the same here? No, we can't. It's not as usefully symmetrical. If this was an 8, this would be a 7. That would be 6 and 4. 5, 3, 6 there, 5. That doesn't, that's not a chain that leads to anything, I don't think. Right, so I'm saying if this was an 8, okay, I'll try it this way around. If this was an 8, no, let's try it, sorry, let's start with this being an 8. That makes this a 7. These are 6 and 4, although I don't know the order yet. Actually, I do, because that's become a 6. So it's 4, 6. That makes this 3. This one's 5. That has to be an 8 for these two to add up to 13. And that's a 7. So that would work. That now would fix that as a 7. Ooh, it's tempting. But if this was a 6, this would have to be 8, 4, 5. That's interesting. If this is an 8, this has to be a 7. If this is a 6, that doesn't prima facie have to be something, but in fact it has to be an 8, because otherwise you can't make up the total. Oh yeah, you can. That could be a 7 with 6 and 4. No, it couldn't be 6 and 4. Yes, if this is a 6, it has to be an 8. Now that means that between those two cells, 8 has been used in this row. So this can't be an 8. No, I don't think that proves anything. How about this cell? 7, it has to be 7 or 8 again to make 17 in these 3. So we're getting another 7 or 8. Lots of those turning up, but that's not quite enough to resolve anything. Again, still struggling with these two. I wish I could put in something. I mean, we know that they have to be 3, 8 or 7, 4, but we don't know which way around that is. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm so sorry. Spent all of that time not realizing that in 2 of these rows and columns with the 27, we've got a number that we can just fill in. So that's 8. That's 8. So those add up to 9. So we don't know whether they're 6, 3 or 5, 4, but we do know that these must also add up to 9, because they must be the other ones out of 3, 4, 5, 6. So that makes this one an 8. And that makes this one a 6, and that makes this one an 8. This is a 7, that's an 8, that's a 5. And I mean, at least we can work from... Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's undo that. So, taking out the 4s, the 5s, 9, 8, 3, 6, 1. This can't be 8 or 3 anymore, so this is a 4, 7 pair. There we go. I'm so sorry that I didn't see that. Now, 2, 8, and 3 to go. 9, 8, 3, 6, 1. Ah, yes, this 5, 6 pairs resolved. That gives us a 5 over here. 2, 7, 3 to go in the first column, but not sure how. Now, if I'd done both of those 27s that I should have been focusing on from a long time ago, this can't be a 4. What next? So these two have to add up to 9, so this one can't be a 6. These two have to add up to 9 as well, and they don't involve a 6. So we can take out 6 and 3, and that leaves us with a 4, 5 there. That makes this one 3, 6. This is 6 now. Not on my best form here, but we're getting there now. So the last place for a 4 in this box is there. 2 and 7 as a pair. 3 there. That makes this one a 5. That's a 3. We've got 2 and 7 to fill in some combination. Probably still got to use one of the 9 and 1 clues somewhere. Ah, yes, this 22 has to add up to 13 outside. Right, so that's not a 7. That means 7 must be one of these two. That's not a 7, and it's not an 8 because of that. So that's a 5. That makes that a 5. This one's a 7. That's an 8. 7 there. That fixes this 2, 7 pair. 5 in column 7 must be there. One of these is a 4. We can't quite resolve the 4 and 7 yet. But 5 in column 3 must be there. I think that's all the 5's done now. That can't be an 8. The only place for an 8 on the bottom row is here. So one of these must be a 6. One of these must be a 4. What have I not used? I think I've used all the clues now. 5 and 6, 1, 8 is there. And that makes this pair a 3 and a 2. 6 here. We've got 4, 7 there, so this is a 2. Last place for a 4 is there. Ooh. Ah, yes, look, we've still got a 7 pair to resolve, so this can't be a 4. It has to be, oh no, it is a 4. That makes 7, 6 and 4, so there we go, lovely. I was just getting worried we were going to have a impossible to resolve 3, 6 pair and 3, 6 pair there, but one's in between 9 and 1 and 1 isn't, so that's handy. And now we're just finishing off. That's a really lovely puzzle. Thank you very much to Week1 for sending that. I enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it more if I hadn't stalled for no apparent reason in the middle when I wasn't spotting that the 27s only had 1 outside them. Lovely puzzle. Let's just check. Yeah, there we go. So I hope you enjoyed that sandwich Sudoku. Beautiful guest puzzle. Thank you very much. And please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Welcome if you haven't been watching the Sudokus. Welcome back if you have. Be aware that we're also on Patreon, and you can sponsor us there and get a bit of extra content each month. And please be aware that we have a Sandwich Sudoku app available on Android, Steam, or the Apple App Store. 5 of whatever your local currency is, hopefully, gets you 100 puzzles for the year, 40 straight away, and the others over the course of the year. And the sales are going really well. The comments are very positive. The details are just below here in the description. Do have a go at that. Thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you again soon on Cracking the Cryptic.